I'm starting 2 minutes early just for fun. John Irvos is here, Washington, D.C. Hello, everybody. Fancy microphone in tow. Ooh, magic. Oh, I see you're talking sports. Don't do that to me. I'm going to assume you're talking soccer. I think I saw something about soccer happening out there, but I am not 100% convinced. Oh, anyway, hello, everybody. We're doing like a hello for a minute or two here first. Then I'll start TikTok because it seems to take them a little longer, but at the same time, they flee when we do our chatting. So anyway, how is everybody? Oh, by the way, you saw, maybe you didn't see, actually, there's a thing about to pop up, the automatic thingy. We did find the t-shirts online on Amazon. I don't know if it was Syndicate or somebody else who sent it to me, but it looks like they only ship in the US, the Ukrainian flag shirts. My t-shirt that I am using, and I have to switch TikTok over as a Ukrainian flag. Let me flip TikTok over, and then one moment here. Where is this? Enhance, niet. Effects, niet. I guess I got to go live and do it first. I guess so. All right, I'm going to go live on TikTok, and then we'll see. But in any case, yes, you can buy them online. But here we go, going live on TikTok. As always, we go a couple minutes of just having folks say hi and where you're from first. And then we will jump right into the broadcast, the newscast. Colleen, Borderline. Well, Borderline looks like you were first. Oh boy. Hey guys, let me flip my camera here if I can figure it out. Let's see. It's under some goofy setting. It's not admin. Just saying. Introduce yourselves if you would while I'm figuring out how to get my camera to switch here. Oh, they make it so difficult. So difficult. Is it under interact for some crazy reason? Yet. Share. New. Enhance. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for my first hat of the day. There we go. All right. Hey guys. So yes, I flipped the camera so that now on TikTok, you get the flag the right way. So it actually puts them up correctly. But yes, if folks want to just kind of say where you're from, we take a couple minutes just to have folks introduce themselves. It's a beautiful Sunday, at least here in Washington, D.C. it is. Oops, adjusting my Mr. Microphone here. There we go. Ooh, I know the flip view is funny. It freaked me out at first too. Now I'm finally used to it, but it's important because then I can show you guys the map, and the map is actually correct on TikTok rather than the opposite. Because I kept trying to explain east and west, and it was opposite for TikTok, and you know. Anyway, guys, introduce yourselves if you would. We wait a couple minutes here just for folks to have a chance to get on. Thank you, Jessica, for that. Germany. What else we got here? Canada. More Germany. Lots of Germany today. Ooh, Florida. Did YouTube freeze or not? I don't know. Got to see if my YouTube froze while we're waiting to go on here. Oops. Oh, okay. Okay. Just making sure. All right. Good. As we're all chatting amongst yourselves on YouTube, I wasn't sure. Anyway, yeah. Just keep introducing your guys. Oh, there we go. TikTok's finally coming in. Hello, TikTok folks. We wait 2 more minutes probably just for TikTok folks to come in to give you guys a chance, and then I will dive right in. Pretty good news day again, actually. No, I would say very good news day. Not surprisingly, this kind of goes back and forth with the news, but today is thank you, Melanie and Manda, both. This is it's a good news day, so I'm happy to say for a Sunday. Yeah, maybe another minute. What else is going on? Aloha, aloha, girl. North Carolina. Yeah, it's gorgeous out here today. Oh my God. We're like in the low 70s, 73 degrees. Woo. I have to take my dog out after this. Well, I've got to make some bread after this too. I've got some sourdough that is arising. So maybe I'll be doing that first and then taking my dog out afterwards. Oops. There we go. Turning off my air conditioning so I don't freeze to death. All right, guys. I think we've hit a plateau on TikTok, so I will start introducing myself. and my multiple personalities. John Arvos is here. Thank you, Samantha. And broadcasting from Washington, D.C., this is my daily Ukraine update. Привіт, or привіт iz Ukraini. Somebody's saying hello from Ukraine. Oh, that's right, DLB. Hi, DLB. On TikTok, everybody shower DLB with some sunflowers. Our tradition is when we get the Ukrainians popping in, we try to shower them with sunflowers, which is the national flower of Ukraine. So the way we do this is I start the show for about 20 minutes or so with the latest news, the stuff I think is important, and then we jump into question and answer. Excuse me, my allergies are really bad today. But the Q&A will go till around quarter after the next hour, maybe a little longer. That gives us a good 45 minutes or so of questions. On TikTok, because they removed the Q&A box from the lives, we don't know why. You can put your questions. Probably the easiest thing is to go to my TikTok profile page, and there you'll see the Q&A button. Hit the Q&A button, and you can leave your questions there. That's how we've done it before. It worked the best way. I hate that when the allergies just like creep up in your throat. And on YouTube, use the comment box on the bottom. That should work fine. On TikTok, I always appreciate the flowers and the taps and the hearts and everything else you guys do. So definitely keep doing those. And I will try to do a shout out every time you guys do the funky hats and everything. When I see it, I shout it out. And of course, tap the screen because you never know. We hope that the likes maybe help disseminate this to more people. And on YouTube and Twitter and everything, maybe not Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Obviously, you guys use the comment box at the bottom. Yesterday, I know the super chats weren't working. I'm hoping the super chats are working today. We will find out. They glitch sometimes. It's a YouTube thing, unfortunately. So we will find out. But in principle, if you do a super chat question, it highlights your question for me, and I promise I will try to get to it as the next question I get to on YouTube, because you guys have paid for those questions. Therefore, as a thank you, I will not have them wait until the end. Also, we get a lot of questions and I can never get to all of them. So I always, that's the dog shaking in the background. So I always promise folks, if you do the super chat question, I guarantee I'll get to your question by the end. Super chat option should be a $ in your comment box, sort of below the comment screen on YouTube. If not, then I'm screwed again. What do you do? All right, guys. So here are the stories. Let me give you I decided today for a recap, I would give you maybe the three top stories. Okay, super sticker worked. Thank you, Nicolina. Well, we're closer. Let me give you like the top 3 stories, I think. Russia fired a number of cruise missiles overnight at Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, again. This had not happened in a while. I tend to think when Russia does this, it's usually Russia flexing its muscles when they're pissed off about something. So in this case, my guess is Russia isn't very happy about our second story. Well, not our second story. It's our top story, but the second one I'm going to mention, which is the Ukrainians seem to be doing very well in the battle for the East. You remember, and I'll jump into this in a second, but this town of Sverdlovsk in sort of far eastern Ukraine, the Russians did a good job initially almost taking it over. They had between 70 and 90% of the town. This town was very important because it's the last remaining town or big town in sort of far eastern Ukraine in a region called Luhansk that the Russians want to occupy, they want to control, and they want to annex. So it was a big deal for Putin, who has not had many successes, let's face it, in this war, for Putin to finally be able to say, actually, he wouldn't say occupy, he would say, I liberated Luhansk, and, we've had a great success. Well, not so much. What happened was the Ukrainians fought back, and they've been fighting back very well. Oh, my mic. Sorry, my TikTok mic. They've been fighting back very well. The other thing I wanted to mention briefly before we get into this, and thank you, Heather. It looks like it's working today. Yay! My super chat questions. Another Russian general has died in Ukraine, it appears. His name is Major General Roman Kutuzov, Kutuzov, if I'm pronouncing it, Kutuzov. And generally speaking, somebody wrote yay. Colonel Mustard wrote yay on TikTok. The things we get excited about in wartime are a little skewed, but understandable. So what's interesting about this is this guy may be the 13th Russian general killed. It's hard to know. And I forgot to mention as an aside, I've got the TikTok folks on my iPad. I've got everybody else on my laptop, which is why you'll see me look back and forth. That's what's going on. And when you see me looking down on TikTok like right now, it's because I'm reading your questions. So fret not. I am actually paying attention to you all. So the general is interesting. What the experts think is the Russians are having so hard a time of things. Thank you, Melanie, for that. Our Russians are having so hard a time that they're having to send generals to the front. Morale is so bad. The troops are doing poorly. Thank you, Molly, that they're sending the generals, and the generals, well, in order to boost morale, the generals are the genitals. That's about it. Not much different, really, to be honest, in terms of what's going on with the Russians. But the generals are having to go to the front line to actually see what's going on because they're not having good communications with their guys on the ground. Normally the generals are way far back, right? I mean, they're not even there in the theater. And secondly, morale is so bad now amongst Russian troops, and frankly, it's been bad since the beginning, that the generals are showing up at the front line to try to boost the spirit so people go, aha, the general's here, yay. Well, the general was there and the general got shot. And you can imagine what that does for morale. Because again, these lowly fighters are getting destroyed. Their units are getting beaten up, right? Their fellow soldiers are getting killed and injured. And then they see that not even the generals are safe. That does not make you feel very good if you are a lonely person in the military, a low-level person in the military, and the generals are getting shot. You're thinking, I have no chance if they can't protect the general. So huge deal there. Let's go back to Severodonetsk. I've got a lot of information on that, a lot of quotes I've taken from the experts. So as background, as I said, this is an area, friendly fire. That's an interesting question, actually. So this is, as I said, a town in eastern Ukraine, town of about 100,000 people. Very important. Kharkiv is up here, just for comparison, the second largest city that we talk about a lot. Severodonetsk over here. Kyiv, the capital, way over here. So the Russians have been going after this town. As I said, they're doing it because they want bragging rights to finally be able to say, aha, we took all of Luhansk, thank you, Iggy, all of the eastern Ukraine, right? Well, also, what happened? The British defense, hey, Thomas Walsh, the British defense folks, I believe, defense ministry said Ukraine is going to lose Severodonetsk, the town, within 2 weeks. It's gone. There's nothing Ukrainians can do. Well, what do you know? Thank you, Chris. The Ukrainians kind of screwed up the best laid predictions. Thank you, Kevin and Chris. The best laid predictions of their losses, or what's the Samuel Clemens quote? Reports of my demise have been grossly exaggerated. Ukraine's doing much better. So Ukraine goes in. We hear a couple days ago that the Ukrainians seem to have pulled something off. Vicky, hi. That's very funny. We'll talk later. That's really funny, Vicky. Hey. Sorry, I'm seeing somebody from high school popped in. That blew my mind. How funny. Back where I was. So the Ukrainians come in, and we start hearing a couple days ago that things are actually going really well, right, for the Ukrainians. And it was kind of gossip originally. Like I was seeing it in some Ukrainian sources. Nobody was talking about it as far as like the big defense folks in the West. Even Zelensky's folks weren't talking about it. So I was thinking it was rumor, and I reported it to you guys as rumor because I don't necessarily want to tell you something's real if I don't know. And thank you, Chris and Borderline, for that. Well, what seems to have happened is, and we're having way more reports about it this morning, as I think somebody just said, Rico just said they tricked the Russians. Well, the Russians sent for a number of issues here. One, the Ukrainians played like they were losing. So we had Zelensky and everybody saying, oh my God, we've lost 20% of our territory. We're really in trouble. Help us. And there was a lot of this talk in the last several days that frankly got a lot of us down, right? I mean, I remember hearing this and going, God, this sounds really bad. So that happens. The Russians then get overzealous, and the Russians start sending everything they've got into taking this town. And I guarantee you, this is just my political gut, Putin told them, God, I want a victory. And you better, so help me God, get that damn town because I need a victory. And this is also why, remember, what's his face? The butcher of Syria, who was that's not going to happen. The butcher of Syria was, Trying to see here. The Butcher of Syria was, oh, hang on a sec. We've got trolls. We've got trolls. 1 second, folks. I just need to deal with a troll really quick. I apologize. Although, granted, it's a troll that's kind of like speaking shit, shoes. I was going to say spitting into the wind. My language is slipping today. One moment. But the Butcher of Syria, Dvornikov. Okay, waiting for my page to come up. Almost there. All right, hang on, folks. Just dealing with a troll. Here we go. Yeah, well. Bye-bye. Oops. Oh, wait, here we go. Yeah, sure. This is great. Somebody's pretending to be Jewish and a supporter of Russia. Okay, Boris. Good try, though. I'll give you that. There we go. Okay, I had to get somebody who was trolling my my Facebook page. He's gone now. Oh, yeah, Paulie. You won't hear from him no more. There we go. All right, guys. I apologize for that. So the Butcher of Syria was the guy picked like 6 weeks ago to replace the previous guy. Remember, that was overseeing the war in Ukraine. And then remember, there were all those generals overseeing the war at the beginning. Well, what happens now? The new guy has now been overthrown, so he's left. And there's yet another new general overseeing the war in Ukraine for the Russians. Things are going that badly. At the same time, they decided to send a bunch of reservists, the Russians did, for this super duper battle they're having for this town. And what happened was the Russians did not want to send their own troops because as much as they were saying publicly, excuse me, that they thought they could win this town, they knew this town was going to be a meat grinder. Oh yeah, the Butcher's gone. The Butcher was fired 2 days ago, Raggedy Android. He's gone. There's a whole new general in town now. So the Russians don't send Russian troops. Okay, they will not send Russian troops into this town, Severodonetsk. Instead, they're sending some of the foreign troops. We know the Chechens went, and the Chechens got too cocksure as well. Apparently, the Chechens got totally snookered by the Ukrainians. The Chechens thought we're beating the bejesus out of these Ukrainians, and they ran right in. And the Ukrainians then turned around and went boom. So the Chechens could be pretty much destroyed, at least the ones that were in this town. Very bad news for them. The other troops the Russians sent, because the Russians, again, didn't want to get Russians killed because they thought even if we can win, this is going to be a really bad battle in this town. So the Russians sent this one, talk about just desserts. They sent Ukrainians from, and I want to double check, but I think they were Ukrainians from Luhansk. They were Ukrainians from these breakaway provinces. They're not breakaway provinces. Thank you, Crusher. They're the two eastern provinces of Ukraine that the Russians have been paying and inciting terrorists there. Well, the Russians took Ukrainian troops, but Ukrainian troops from the breakaway province, right? Ukrainian troops that are the Ukrainian collaborators, and they sent the collaborators in instead of the Russian troops themselves. Well, first of all, the collaborators are not well trained. So that's the first big problem. Second of all, they didn't give them very good equipment compared to what the Russian army gets normally. These guys have lousy equipment. A lot of them were saying they didn't have battle helmets. They didn't have body armor. So, yep, I just fixed it. Forgot I had the other one on there. So really bad news. Anyway, it's a combination of the Russians sending their worst troops in because they didn't want to kill Russia. They didn't want Russians to get killed, and the Ukrainians playing a really sly game with the Russians. That the reports are, let's see if it's true. The reports are that half of the town has been taken over. Half the town has been taken over by the Ukrainians, when before it could have been 70 to 90% of the town taken over by the Russians. So that's great news. Let me give you, like I said, I wanted to read some of the details here. Just to give you a bit here. Yes. So Ukraine, this is from the Institute for the Study of War. I've read these guys to you before. They're a very big think tank here in Washington, D.C., and they are very well respected. Ukrainian and Russian sources confirmed that Ukrainian forces conducted a successful counterattack in Severodonetsk on June 3rd. Now, what's good about this is we now have the official sort of military experts here in the States and in the West in general who have looked at this, and they're now saying these are credible reports rather than just rumors a few days ago. Some Russian military bloggers, and remember I told you the other day how the Russians were sending, thank you guys, I appreciate this, how the Russians were sending military bloggers, private citizens who blog about the military, and they were sending them embedded with their troops to the front. Well, these military bloggers, a lot of them have a lot of followers. One of them recently I saw had 100,000 followers on Telegram. One of them has, I think, 3 million followers on Telegram. And the Russians thought they were going to be really sly. You know, the way the Ukrainians are so good with the internet, the Russians thought, you know, oh, we're going to be really cool like the Ukrainians, and we're going to get our social media people. Well, their social media people are these military experts who are blogging from the front and are pissed as hell at the Russians for what a bad job the Russians are doing. So these guys keep putting on Telegram the truth about what's going on in the war. So Western intelligence is reading this and like right here, quoting it, but also people back home in Russia are looking at this, having followed these guys going, well, these are the official guys that Putin sent with our troops. We know we can trust them, right? So anyway, great news. So some Russian military bloggers reported that Chechen units likely thought that they had successfully secured Severodonetsk and were unprepared for the counterattack. So as I said, thank you, Tom, for that. So the Chechens thought they won, weren't ready. Institute for the Study of War says Ukraine is doing successful counterattacks and they've stalled the Russian attempt to encircle their positions. The UK Defense Ministry, United Kingdom, says the counteroffensive is likely blunting operational momentum of the Russians. This is important because for the last couple of days, everyone kept saying, you know, the Russians are now getting momentum. You know, the Russians are now gaining speed, and momentum helps. Momentum is just this sort of this feeling of we can do it and we're going to win, right? Well, this has totally destroyed that. I've got the proxy forces, which cracked me up. Okay, here's a big section from the Institute for the Study of War. I want to read it to you, as I said, just because I think it's smart and interesting, and I couldn't figure out how to summarize it, so I figured I'll quote it. Hang on. So as I said, this is from the Institute for the Study of War, a very respected defense think tank here in Washington, D.C. The Ukrainian government and military are discussing the Battle of Severodonetsk in increasingly confident terms and are likely successfully blunting the Russian military's major commitment of reserves to the grinding battle to the city. While Russian forces may still be able to capture Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, and Ukrainian forces are likely more degraded, than some have been saying, Ukrainian defensives remain strong in this pivotal theater. The Russian military has concentrated all of its, this is an important part, the Russian military has concentrated all of its available resources on this single battle to make only modest gains. They're talking about all of their available resources in Ukraine and Russia, that the Russians took everything they had that was working, any of their troops who could fight, and they threw them at this battle. And now they're not even winning. The Ukrainian military, contrarily, retains the flexibility and confidence to not only conduct localized counterattacks elsewhere in Ukraine, such as north of Kherson, but conduct effective counterattacks into the teeth of Russian assaults in Severodonetsk that reportedly retook 20% of the city. So what that line is saying is that while the Russians took anybody they had available, anybody they had left who could fight, but I mean, who actually was ready to fight, and they threw it at this town. So the rest of the Russian positions, and mind you, we're talking Russian positions from Kharkiv up here, going all the way down through here, through all of this. So all of this is territory the Russians are having to defend. They are on now the defensive there because they used everybody they could who could actually go on the offensive in Severodonetsk. But what do the Ukrainians got? They're saying the Ukrainians actually have more troops and are still going on the offensive elsewhere, such as Kherson, which is all the way down here, just east of Odessa. Odessa's over here. Here's Kherson. So the Ukrainians are still able to go on the offensive, and actually offensive meaning, hey, let's attack the Russians here. Okay, let's go. That's on the offensive. Whereas the Russians cannot do that anywhere. The Russians are literally sitting on their butts, digging in and saying, okay, we're just going to have to sit back and wait for the Ukrainians. The Ukrainian government's confidence in directly stating its forces can hold Severodonetsk for more than 2 weeks, and their willingness to conduct local counterattacks rather than strictly remaining on the defensive is a marked shift from Ukrainian statements as recently as May 28th. Again, anyway, that's what I've got on that. It's good. I mean, we don't have a lot more details, but it's good news. There are no updates. I should say the update on what's going on overall for Kharkiv, because there's a lot of Russians east of Kharkiv. What's going on here in Kherson? There were no updates today in terms of, they said the Russians didn't launch any major offensives, and there wasn't any land that really changed hands very much. So there really isn't any news there. Now, this was kind of funny. Changing topics. We talked a few days ago about how Biden, thank God, and I think some of the others are going to be, the English may also provide these weapons, is going to be providing this missile system to the Ukrainians. They're going to give them medium-range missiles that can go about 43 miles or 70 kilometers. And one of the reasons that's really important, and it's interesting because you guys were asking, why does that matter? Well, I was reading online today, somebody was doing the math and I checked it out. If you look at the distance from Snake Island, which, remember, Snake Island is right over here. That's the Russian warship Go F Yourself Island, right? So the Russians control it. The Ukrainians want it. I mean, part of the reason this matters is you can sort of reach out and start to hit ships over here in the airspace and everything else, right? So helps to be a little bit further out. Well, the distance between this island and the Ukrainian shore is about 20 miles. No, it's not 20 miles. I saw 30 miles. 30 miles is the distance there. The distance that these new missiles can go is 43 miles. So the Ukrainians will be able to hit Snake Island, and there's a lot of Russians there and a lot of equipment. They can blow up this island and wipe out the Russians there, potentially using these new missiles, and do it, I'll say, safely from the shore. They've got to worry about drones and things like that too, but that's part of why it matters. Now, what is interesting is, and I couldn't find the exact statement, but do you remember when Biden was talking about sending these weapons? And Putin put out a quote that said something, I forgot what it was, but it was one of these, you better not nuclear war, blah, blah, blah quotes, right? Well, today Putin said, these new missiles don't matter. These new missiles are exactly the same missiles the Ukrainians already had. We don't care. All they're doing is replacing the old missiles. It doesn't matter. Now, a few things there. A week ago, Putin was not saying these missiles didn't matter. He was threatening. Well, he was threatening. And again, what I always say, most of his threats are bluffs. The invasion wasn't a bluff, but most of his threats are bluffs. Now he's backing down and saying, oh, no, it doesn't matter. The second thing that I found funny about that is saying they already have those missiles, but they're running out and you gave them new missiles is not really saying that these missiles are not helpful, right? I mean, they've got new missiles. This is great. They've got more missiles now to shoot at you. That's helpful on its face. Well, just to put the cherry on top of this sundae, now Putin is threatening the longer range missiles. So we did not give the longer range missiles. Thank you, Heather. You guys are making up for yesterday. I appreciate it on YouTube. We did not give the longer range missiles that can go like 150 miles or even much longer, right? Biden was afraid of, thank you. Hi, Robert. Over on Facebook, Biden, not afraid. Biden was worried that these missiles would so antagonize Russia, they could hit Russian cities 100 miles away, 200 miles away, that therefore he didn't want to give them to Ukraine. There has been no talk of giving Ukraine the longer range missiles. Putin is now saying, if you give the longer range missiles, mind you, he threatened the short range missiles. Remember, if you give the short range missiles, look out. Now he's saying, oh, I don't care. You got the short range missiles. He's now saying, if you get the longer range missiles, then, and this was my favorite, he's going to hit targets he hasn't hit before. And I'm reading that and I'm going, yeah, like, first of all, I mean, if Putin weren't in charge of the war, I would fire him. I'd be like, imagine your general telling you, boy, if they move in those other missiles, we're going to go after targets that we haven't hit yet. I'd be telling my general, why the F haven't you gone after those targets yet? What do you mean you're going to go after additional targets that you didn't bother hitting? If they're targets that matter, you would have already hit them. If they're targets that don't matter, then it's not a threat because who cares? But exactly what Carol just said, Putin's threats are getting more and more ridiculous. This is why I keep saying these are bluffs, and you've got to keep pointing out the logic of this stuff. Grain. So there's been just a couple more stories and we're done here. More reports of the Russians going after grain. You know that the Russians have been trying to cause a worldwide food crisis. Okay, we know that. Initially, they started off by trying to cause a starvation crisis in Ukraine itself by going after the grain, by going after the equipment. They stole, God, in one farm alone, they stole $5 million worth of farming equipment. They've been blowing up silos, blowing up grain reserves, all sorts of things, right? The second thing is the Russians have been stealing Ukrainian grain. Thank you, Carrie. And selling it on their own, possibly to some Turks, we read, but the Turkish government's helping with that, possibly to the Lebanese. They went to the Egyptians. The Egyptians apparently said no. The other thing is the Russians have been blockading the ports down here. Odessa is the big port in the south, still controlled by the Ukrainians, this area, and the Russians have been blocking the sea here to stop the Ukrainians from being able to export their grain. And what does that do? That directly threatens people in the Middle East and people in North Africa who rely on this grain, and directly threatens hunger for these people. I mean, it's a serious issue. The UN is worried. Everyone's worried, right? The idea of why he's doing this is he wants people starving. Putin wants to create a couple different things. One, he would like to create a crisis where these people are starving so much that they flee and go to Europe instead, just like what happened in Syria, where the fighting got so bad that, I don't remember, was it millions? I mean, it was horrific, the number of Syrians who had to flee their homes and head to Europe, right? He wants to cause that kind of political turmoil in Europe to basically put pressure on the Ukrainians to stop helping the Ukrainians, so that the Europeans, he wants people in Europe to go, this is crazy, the refugee crisis, this war has to stop, right? The Macron line. In any case, so that's what's going on with grain. The most recent stuff, 4 Russian missiles hit a car repair plant in Kyiv overnight. These were the missiles I was telling you about. And they claim they were hitting NATO tanks that had just arrived for Ukraine. The Ukrainians say, in fact, they were grain trucks being used for export. Hard to know which is true, but could easily be the Russians causing trouble. Also, at the same time, the Russians destroyed a major grain export terminal in Mykolaiv, which is right up here. That's Mykolaiv. And again, feeds down this river right into the same bay here that Odessa feeds into. So, I'm more prone to believe the Russians are hitting the grain areas, because that is one of their larger goals. The last story I'll tell you, which is kind of funny, the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov is heading to Serbia, I think as early as tomorrow. The Serbs, you may know, are difficult. They're very, thank you, Arifa. They're very friendly to the Russians, a little too friendly. And Lavrov is going to meet with the Serbs Monday and Tuesday. Well, what happened was the surrounding countries said, you're not flying over our airspace to get there. So North Macedonia, Bulgaria, and, Montenegro said, you're not flying over our airspace, which makes it extremely difficult to get there from Turkey, where he's going to be first, because you'd have to go. I mean, you'd have to go all the way around. It's crazy how he'd have to get there. So it's not clear how he's getting there. It's a little bit of a slight. It's a little bit bitchy, but I like it. So that's the end of that. I told you about Snake Island. That is it for the news of the day. Yeah, that was a quick one today, 2:30. All right. I will exactly. Thank you, Doug, for those. Let me start with the questions overall, guys. If you've got, let me see. Just seeing what people are saying here. If anything worth putting up here. Grr. Not sure, Mike. I'm not sure what the problem is with that. Sorry. All right, let me check. You know what, guys? I'm going to see if the TikTok folks, if anybody put a question in the Q&A. That's where we're doing questions now from you guys. So let me see. One moment here. Q&A. You did. I don't know. I mean, somebody just asked, what does Putin mean? He's going to target locations that have not been struck yet. I think what Putin is trying to do, everything Putin does in terms of says, is trying to scare people. And it's trying to be like, oh my God, right? I mean, like the nuclear stuff. Oh my God. He's trying to imply for America, he's trying to imply, for example, that, thank you, Karina, for that, that maybe he would go and hit NATO. Maybe he would go and hit Poland or something crazy, right? Which they're not going to do. He's not going to hit NATO because then all of NATO's at war with him and these guys can't even beat the Ukrainians. They're sure as hell not going to want to have the NATO dragged into the war. Not dragged. We would destroy him. So it's not that, but he's trying to make it sound like that. I think he's threatening even more civilian death is my guess, because that's the only other thing that's left. Now, actually, if I think about this, knowing Putin and knowing what scares the West, we know we've got France and Germany being difficult. We know we've got Italy being difficult. We know Biden is pretty good. And for the questions, guys, on TikTok, go to my because TikTok got rid of the question box at the bottom, unfortunately, during lives. Go to my profile on TikTok and you'll see Q&A listed. Click Q&A and just put your question in there. And that way I've been going and just reading them on my phone. But I think Putin is also suggesting like maybe I'll use chemical or nuclear weapons or biological weapons. I think he's kind of hinting at that too, because that's the thing that scares these guys. So I don't think he means anything to some degree. I think he's just going to send more missiles at Kyiv. He's going to kill more civilians, but it's not going to be anything that different from what he's already doing. That's my sense. That's my sense. Again, up until this point, Putin is just, Putin's just being bad. I mean, Putin's just trying to bluff everything. Sorry. Why Babaku got muted, maybe by accident. If you guys can check, Y period Babaku, Babacu, asking to be unmuted on TikTok. If you can help, Y period Babacu, I would appreciate that. Oh, I see the one you were putting about the Paris Peace Conference. Yep. Actually, you guys don't have any new questions on here. See, I like the old way. The old way was nice with the list of questions. It's okay. It's okay. I just want to see. You're all having a discussion amongst yourselves here. What's Syndicate saying? Russia keeps talking nukes, but they'll need to take out the remote missile interceptor stations. Aren't you the little nuclear expert? In Alaska, California, yeah, they're not going to be. Russia's not going to do the nukes. Don't you think it's ridiculous that South Africa hasn't taken a stand against Russia and the war? Yes, this has been a problem overall in Africa, not completely, but the African Union has, did it say maybe 53 countries or so, 51 or 53, and I believe 19 of them have still not taken a position on the war, have still not criticized the war. They are trying to officially, the union is staying, impartial over the war. The reason is because a lot of them get their weapons from the Russians. So that's an issue. Yeah, it's problematic. It's problematic, especially now that Putin is trying to starve them all to death. Maybe they ought to pick a team, but for them to sort of say they're being impartial when Putin is literally using the grain as a weapon, and he's not using the grain as a weapon against Ukraine. He's literally trying to hold people in Africa hostage and North Africa and the Middle East hostage in order to get his way. And for Africans to not say, okay, that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing. I agree with you. That is not good. Yes, there is no Q&A on your screen. You've got to go to my profile on TikTok, and underneath my profile picture with all that fun stuff, you will see a link that says Q&A. Why would you want Russian weapons? Well, that's a funny question. You may have been asking that ironically, Mully, but right after a bunch of the Russian tanks and everything were getting blown up by the Ukrainians, by the drones, India, I believe, either postponed or canceled a big purchase of Russian weapons that it was planning. And everyone was kind of like, was that because you were seeing how badly they were doing, or what is it? But it was an interesting point. Yes. Now, to some degree, one of the things you've got to keep in mind is it's not just the Russian weapons. I mean, some of the Russian weapons are fine. Their troops are poorly trained, right? They've got a lot of reservists. They've got a lot of these guys who were just brought in for a year, like a 1-year contract, and then they're gone. They're doing their required military service. I mean, they're not the best fighters. So you've got these guys coming in and using these weapons. If there were a more qualified Russian military, they might do better. So it's not necessarily proving that the Russian arms don't work just because the Russians are doing such a bad job with them. I don't want to defend the Russians, but oh, there's a good point too. Tony says, I think the African nations should lead a convoy to pick up the grain. If they don't have the infrastructure to do it, we should lend it to them. Exactly. Let Putin go and blow up the ships of the very African countries that he's wooing. Because also, Russia, the Soviet Union before them and the Russians today are very big on wooing the third world. Hold on. I'm going to show a quick thing here on the screen in case you guys are seeing. Okay. On TikTok, look at my profile. Okay. Right there. There's a link right below it. It says Q&A and below it says tips. See? It says who I am. It says the days of my lives. It has a link there that says beacons right below beacons. See if I can get my finger. I'm going to just hold my finger here. Right next to my finger there, it says Q&A. Look for that on the screen of my profile. It doesn't have the Q&A on there? Wow. Boy, the Russians have now gotten rid of the Q&A on the profile screen too. The Russians. I'm calling TikTok the Russians. God, TikTok. I don't know what their problem there is. Well, some of you have it, some don't. I did nothing I can help you guys. Otherwise, I'll try to pick questions off the screen, of course. No news about the dolphins that died. There was some horrible news the other day about thousands of dolphins dying in the Black Sea, which is down here. And the scientists were thinking, of course, that it was related to the war, but they weren't sure what was going on. But no news, just nasty, though. Yeah, sure, Joanna. Why is this trying the land he's claiming he wants? Oh, here we go. So LaShawn asks a question. Thomas and Twyla, are you asking the other folks there? Though we could have everybody weigh in. I don't understand why he's destroying the land he's claiming to want. Doesn't Putin understand that he will have to pay to rebuild that land? Yes. The thing is, Putin wants the land. He doesn't necessarily care what's on it. He is looking to restore greater Russia, right? So he wants the land that Russia lost when the Soviet Union dissolved. And he's thinking of his claim to fame. He's not thinking of necessarily, oops, and the dog wants to go in the sun. One moment. All right, you. Up. All right, go. There we go. The dog will be coming in and out because it's nice out. He's not doing this because he's done an economic analysis and says, okay, we need this region because we need the grain and he's doing it because he's like, I want that land. I want to be famous. I want to be the big hero czar who brought back this land. I don't freaking care if it's on fire and salted earth when I get it. I just want the land so I can claim victory. The second thing is he wants to destroy the Ukrainians and their culture and everything else. So I don't know that he has a problem with wiping out everything that's on the land because it belonged to the Ukrainians and just starting all over again. Because also, what does that do? It forces all the Ukrainians to leave. I mean, either they kidnap them and take them to Russia, or they just flee. He would like nothing better for the people in Mariupol, for example, to die, to flee, to go to Russia, but to have it be empty. And then, he's got to rebuild it, which costs money, but he then brings in his own people because it's his land now that he's stolen. And they bring all of their own people in, So anyway, that's my take on it. Oh, we have a Sultan weighing in. That's nice. God damn, these Facebook spammy people are just terrible. All right, one moment. All right. So I had to block another Facebook people. We're getting lots of spammy Facebookers today. Terrible. Terrible spammy Facebookers. All right. Back to here again. Here's the question I was going to put up. Are you disappointed in Israel's lackluster help for Ukraine? Yes. And the West considering how much the West gives them? Yes. I think Israel has really disappointed me. And I say this as somebody who defends Israel a lot. My generation grew up watching a lot of the back and forth between Israel and the Palestinians, the PLO, the different terrorist groups, et cetera. And I think some of us older folks are a little maybe more sympathetic to both sides because the Palestinians got a raw job from the beginning. And then the Arabs didn't really care about helping the Palestinians from the beginning. Let's make that clear too. And the Israelis have been blown up. Well, putting aside the Holocaust and 4,000 years of oppression, the Israelis also been getting blown up left and right. So that tends to make you kind of ornery and striking back hard when you keep getting blown up. Having said that, the Israelis are saying they need the Russians because the Russians, for example, are giving them overflight rights to fly over Syria and this kind of stuff. And, we provide so much military aid to Israel. We are the big defender of Israel. Now, granted, Israel has got nuclear weapons. So I don't know if the number was like 100 or something. So, they can defend themselves to a degree. But nonetheless, we're the big defender of Israel. And for Israel not to get that genocide is bad and that you don't rationalize, you don't both sides genocide, or I'm not trying to phrase this. You don't sort of put genocide on a scale and go, okay, genocide bad. What's the benefit I can get in overlooking genocide? You don't do that if you're Israel, right? I mean, Israel's whole point of existing is to remind the world of just how bad genocide is and never again. And the answer Israel's giving the world isn't never again. It's sometimes, and that's bullshit. And for Israel itself, Israel should not be sending the message that sometimes genocide's okay because that's exactly what they're doing. And honestly, again, I tend to be a big supporter of Israel. So I think I can say this because otherwise some people would be saying it and they'd just be saying it to knock Israel. It's bullshit. And I've said it publicly and I've said it on Twitter and elsewhere just to keep, to put a little more pressure on them because it's bullshit. Anyway, very annoying, ticks me off. Let me do a little bit of questions here. Sorry, I'm scrolling back so I didn't miss stuff. Annette, thank you. The Sultan of Swing is leaving. Daniel, I'm surprised. Daniel, you've always got questions. Thank you. All right, I appreciate you guys. I'm still looking for questions. I appreciate you doing the super stickers though. Yes, Streamlabs. Yes, I've got my combination of jokes on Streamlabs today. All right, guys, let me go to yours. So if the Q&A box is gone, let me just look one more time on mine. For a lot of you, there's still a few of you were able to get through on TikTok. Are the French Legion going or already gone to Ukraine? I don't know. I doubt it. No, because the French Legion would still be considered an arm of the French government, and nobody wants any troops on the ground there from NATO or from NATO. So I doubt there's any possibility of the French Foreign Legion being there. Now, some of their members may have volunteered. That's a different question, right? Just as individuals. My Facebook page, just Google my name and you'll find it. There are no other John Eravosis's in the world, quite literally. It's me. So, the dog wants to come in. All right, come on in. But yeah, just Google, and I've got 2 pages up. You'll find them for John Eravosis. Is Johnny Depp hot? Okay, that wasn't you guys. That was a suggested. That was a suggested TikTok question. One of the questions you can ask your people, what you can answer for people, is Johnny Depp hot? I love this app. The weird thing is that I think like the people who run TikTok still think this is an app for 13-year-old girls, and they don't realize it's grown to be so much more than that. And it freaks them out that it's grown to be more than that, It really does. But I love the yes, he is. There you go. Well, see, we've had the answer right there. Not avoiding. I didn't see your question about the lack of the UN in Ukraine. I think the UN sucks. I worked at the UN, so you're not going to get me defending the UN, Christian. Don't worry about that. Yeah, no, the UN, I don't know the details now, but I know from the beginning they were kind of playing games like, well, we don't go into war zones, or I don't know what it was, but it was kind of like, this is exactly where you should be in war zones, and it's where the refugees are and they need your help. So yeah, I don't know the status of it right now. That I don't know. But the UN, if there could be a scandal, if there could be them doing something bad, they will. So yes, that's a guarantee. Thank you, Baby Shoe, for that. Leona, you did, there you go. Hi, Leona. You did find me. Very good. Yes, Facebook is just a few people on Facebook, but if you want to go there, it's a much quieter crowd. It's like 4 or 5 people, but 4 or 5 nice people. Yes, I know that Viktor Orban, CPAC, which was a conservative conference here in the States, that they go now and they hold one of their conferences each year in Hungary because, and this is a conservative conference that's, thank you, Baby Shoe, that is tied closely to Donald Trump. They now think Hungary is the example of what the world should be. And I kid you not, it's very scary. Meaning Hungary's version of democracy is what America and others should aspire to. And this is the biggest conservative Republican conference of the year. Again, its leaders are tied at the hip with Donald Trump. It's really scary. Somebody just brought that up. Oh, you did ask a question on my page. Then I will go to the page and look for it. Hang on. I'm not answering all the questions, but thank you, Wanda. That's one of my favorite images there. You have the Q&A on your profile and all the other lives but mine. Well, that sucks. I will do a recap at the end. I do the recap. So right before we sort of get into our hanging out period at the very end. Turkey blocking Sweden and Finland, obnoxious. One thing that's really lousy about Turkey blocking, at least for now, Finland and Sweden coming to join NATO, is that the Finns and Swedes put a lot on the line by applying, right? They certainly harmed their relationships with Russia, right? So they burned some bridges with Russia that are going to be difficult to rebuild to join NATO because they were told you won't have a problem joining NATO. Turkey waited until both countries officially applied to say, maybe we're not going to let you in. And it's rude as hell. It's obnoxious. It's manipulative. It also puts those other countries at risk. So much about what Turkey did is wrong. The problem is Turkey rightfully knows that they're important. They're jabbing right out into the Middle East. They're a moderate-ish Muslim country, and they're important to the NATO, and they're important to the U.S. And Turkey knows it, so they know they can screw around with people. But it's really sad. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Very obnoxious. Somebody asked the other day about Russians shooting down a Ukrainian cargo plane. I don't know anything about it, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's totally possible, right? Why? They may, but there are so many planes going that hopefully it doesn't make that much of a difference if one plane goes. I mean, it matters to who's on the plane, of course. I feel bad for them. But in terms of losing equipment, there's so much equipment coming that I don't think it matters. Do you think the world will change their view of the UN after this is done and Ukraine has won? Could there be reform or new institution? I mean, the problem is, hold on a second. My chest is bothering me again. I did one of these before we started, but I can tell. And I've been doing my new medicine, but still, it must be bad today. One second. There we go. And then the nurse who's always with us says I should be sipping water afterwards. All right. Okay, so I don't know that the UN is getting a bad reputation from this. We know the Ukrainians are not thrilled with the UN, and they're really not thrilled with the Red Cross, okay? We know that. I'm not thrilled with the UN, but we're not hearing a lot about the UN we're not hearing a lot about the UN. I mean, even the negative stuff, right? We know Russia will keep vetoing stuff, but I would say in the news, we're not hearing a lot about we don't talk about the UN. No, 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 no. We're not hearing a lot about how the UN's hands are tied because of Russia, how Russia shouldn't be on the Security Council. I mean, you hear it occasionally, and then the story goes away. The problem is, I don't know how you reform the UN because it's so big. I mean, how do you? Russia still monopolizes so many of the countries there. I mean, look at how Russia scares Israel. Let alone a lot of the African countries. I don't think a new institution, I don't see why a new institution would be any better. I would love to see reform at the UN, but I don't know how you do it. And as I said, too, the problem with the UN goes so much deeper. It's just a corrupt institution. I mean, part of the corruption is natural in that the UN, the people who fund the UN are every country in the world. So they've got to be nice to every country in the world, unless you're a really, really small country, then they can kind of crap on you. But generally speaking, the big countries that do the worst stuff potentially are also donors who can shut off the money to the UN. So the UN is super, China, Russia, America, you name it. The UN's like this to all of us, so that if any of us do anything really bad, the UN can't do anything about it. So I don't know. I don't think there's anything that can be done. I don't know how I don't know how you reform it, to be honest. I'm looking at the Johnny Depp question, still cracks me up. Any truth that Putin has cancer? It's not confirmed, no. But the other day, Newsweek reported that 3 intelligence sources told Newsweek that in fact Putin had an advanced case of cancer and went for surgery in April, I think. Are they right? Who knows? I mean, these are sources. Sources could still be reporting rumors, 3 of them is certainly interesting. They came from sources were from 3 different U.S. government agencies. That's interesting. Although those 3 sources from 3 agencies could be reading the same assessment that somebody sent around. So we don't know for a fact that Putin has cancer. I would say, from stuff, even this morning I was reading, from stuff I read, people are assuming he's sick with something, that he's not doing well in general, but, I don't know. I don't know if it's cancer. Oh, but the biggest problem, so I'm yawning. Actually, part of the reason I'm yawning is because before we started, I took an allergy pill, and I realized that's part of my yawn kicks in because with the allergies being so bad, I take the pill and it hits me just about an hour into the show. Where I start to go, widescreen. Oh, that's interesting. What else we got? What else? Let me look and see if there's anything else here. Otherwise, we'll do more questions here. Oh, man, that pill just knocked me out. I have to save some coffee for when I'm doing this so my allergy pills don't make me like a zombie. Okay, no more questions there. Let me find your questions here, guys. I know the yawning's catching. I shouldn't be doing that. Beep, deep, deep. Well, I mean, we're sending weapons that are killing people. This makes us complicit. I don't disagree. I'm glad to be complicit personally, but I don't disagree. I think I've said from the beginning, I think it's kind of a joke for the West to be playing this game where, if we send medium range missiles, but not long range missiles, and we send tanks to kill Russians, but not planes to kill Russians, then it's okay. It's all the same thing. I mean, it's all the same thing. It's ridiculous. Thank you, Gregory. Glad you're liking it. So I just, you sound like you're coming from a different angle than me in terms of whether it's just a good thing, but I think it's a very good thing. But I also would thank you, Blythe, for that. I also think but it absolutely makes us complicit. Of course, we're helping kill Russians. I mean, I'm with you on that, but I just think the U.S. should just admit it straightforward and go, yep. How do I think the war will end? It's going to, in big part, depend on how long the West and everybody wants to keep supporting Russia. right? I mean, that's going to be one big part of it. At this point, Ukraine, I think, is going to keep pushing Russia. Russia is going to keep over time losing land in principle. And the question becomes, one possible scenario is Afghanistan. The Russians keep getting pushed back further and further and further. The Ukrainians keep attacking the Russian troops. We know every day there are more reports of the Russian occupation becoming more difficult in the occupied regions, especially the southern, these guys here are causing a lot of trouble. Kherson and Zaporizhia, et cetera, are causing a lot of trouble for the Russians. People are arming themselves, attacking. The occupiers are having to get more security. So eventually, could it turn into an Afghanistan where the Russians finally go, it's not worth it? Yeah. I mean, I almost think that's the most likely scenario, because I don't see how the Russians themselves leave is the problem, though. I don't think there's anything that's going to make Putin go, say I'm leaving. So that's the hard part. That it may have to be something like in Afghanistan that goes so many years and Putin dies and somebody else comes along and says, you know what? It's not worth. You almost kind of need that. You almost need somebody else who comes along that can blame it all on Putin and say, yeah, this was a mess. It didn't go well, or even better, this was a glorious battle. It was the right thing to do. And that other idiot, Putin, screwed it up. And therefore we're pulling out. That would be the way I'd do it. Ryan, if the Ukrainians can stop the Russians in the east and retake Donbass, do you think that the Russians will be able to hold Crimea in such a weakened state? Well, so we're talking about the Ukrainians getting this land back at least, okay, in the east. And maybe remember, they wanted that connector land. I always talked about the Ukrainians wanted this. They already stole this Crimea in 2014 down here. And they just recently stole this land that they're occupying because they wanted a land bridge from here all the way down to Crimea. So the question there is, if the Ukrainians are able to push the Russians back all the way to the Russian border and kick them out of here, then you get back to Crimea again, which the Russians occupied in 2015. Can the Ukrainians kick them out? I mean, potentially. Well, here's the problem, okay? One of the things I would worry about for the Ukrainians is that at that point, you're dealing with a region the Russians have been controlling for 8 years now. For 8 years now. And supposedly, I had read, I've got to confirm this in Google, maybe one of you guys Google, but I Googled and thought it said the Russians brought in like 700,000 Russians that they sort of imported into Crimea, to try to make sure that it truly turned Russian, right? And if you try to invade, you're now I just don't know if the Ukrainians are invading Crimea, how friendly or unfriendly the locals are to the invasion and what that does. I mean, what that's is that going to make it harder? Is it going to make it easier? If they're friendlier, it'll be easier. If they're a bunch of Russians fighting you, it could be harder. So I don't know. I mean, Zelensky himself has made comments about how difficult it could be to get back Crimea, but if they can, they should, I would say, sure. One of the things is, as you said, ironically, this could be the best chance they have. The problem is Ukraine's going to keep getting more and more tired. They'll keep getting weapons, which is good, but they're going to keep getting tired. And if they're getting more and more tired, eventually, are they going to be able to keep fighting? It's going to be harder for them to fight too. But it is true. Like you said, if the Russians have lost a lot of they've lost a lot of their manpower and their men, they're probably as weak as they could be today if you wanted to take them on, or if anybody else, if China, if you're listening, if China wanted to take them on. I saw, just looking here really quick. No, Tom Messer's asking, any word on Russia's intentions on Odessa? Have they given up taking the port? Well, okay, yes, in the last couple of days. I think you meant in the last day. In the last couple of days, the Ukrainians are saying that they are getting concerned that the Russians may still try to take Odessa. And Odessa, remember again, Odessa's all the way down here in the south on the water, right? So right where my finger's tapping there. And they're worried that the Russians could still try to go there. Now, currently, the Russian occupation more or less goes to about here. Remember all of this to about here. And whether they would, continue to push here, the Ukrainians are worried about it. Now, I'm not sure with what army the Russians do that, because as those analyses I was reading at the beginning of the show were saying, the Russians used sort of all the troops they had in terms of all their combat-ready troops and their equipment. They're throwing at Severodonetsk in the far east of Russia, of Ukraine. Are they going to be able to really move them and do anything with them all the way in Odessa? I mean, I'm not sure they can. I think that doesn't mean they wouldn't make a run for it. They might, and do what they're doing in Severodonetsk, where they throw a bunch of either foreign fighters or Ukrainian collaborators from those territories in the east, or who knows, Russians from Crimea. I mean, who knows? But they certainly could try. But no, oh boy. Oh, sorry, guys. There's certainly nothing. There's certainly no news, though. No. Just looking here. I mean, they're both running lower on troops. Ukraine still has reserves. The Ukrainians have gotten advantage on morale, which helps because Ukrainians are still defending their own land. The Russians don't know why they're there. So there is that. Very funny, Tony. I don't think I'll be saying that, Tony, but good idea. Not even repeating that joke. What else we got? I mean, we know foreign fighters. Las Vegas bartenders asking, any truth to the rumor that foreign fighters have helped Ukraine? If so, how many? We know there have been some. I mean, we do know there have been some. I saw there was a video the other day from Radio Svoboda, which I'm going to guess, although if it's Svoboda, I would think it's Poland. But or is Svoboda I don't know, is that a Ukrainian word too? I think of that as a Polish word. But in any case, they were interviewing the foreign fighters in Ukraine. And there was a guy from Russia, from Georgia, former Soviet Georgia, who was there among others. So we know they're there. We know in just the last couple of days, 4 foreign fighters from, I don't want to say from Europe, because some of them might not have been Europe. I think it was a guy from Germany, Netherlands, maybe Australia, but 4 of them were killed. So we know they're there. I know I saw some news about some Brits who were captured. So, I mean, but I don't know. I mean, one thing we did see is there were reports that Ukraine as well was bringing in the foreign fighters to fight in Severodonetsk. We did see reports on that. Thank you, Inspired. Appreciate that. We did see reports on that. But again, this wasn't like some huge article about it. I just saw a mention that it looked like they were moving them in there. And let's face it, we don't really know enough of what actually is going on in Severodonetsk, in that town in the east. And maybe after we find out, once more information starts coming out, thank you, Lisa, we may get a better handle on whether the foreigners were involved, the biolabs. I don't even know what to explain about the biolabs. They're really, the biolabs is just Russian disinformation in general. I'd have to Google to get the latest spin. The latest spin for the Russians, but I haven't, well, Malcolm's there. We know that. Yep. The Danes have some Vikings there. That's funny. What else we got? You're funny. My hair just, it's not even, doesn't matter who does it. My hair just does things different. I've got Greek hair. It just does things every day. If you like it, go thank mom and dad. Yeah, I shouldn't be tired though, but no, it is my allergy pills. Sorry guys. The short version, why did USSR give Crimea to the Ukrainians and later guarantee their safety after? Oh God. I don't know. Yeah, as far as how many foreign fighters, look, The number that they gave at the beginning was something like 20,000 had applied, but we were never told how many had agreed, right? Or not agreed, how many the Ukrainians had agreed to, excuse me. And we don't know. The Ukrainians have never put that information out there. So we don't really know how many foreign fighters are there. There have also been some articles that the foreign fighters haven't been, loving things. There's that. I mean, if it's true, but it's strange on that one. Hang on, I'm just looking. Oh, that is weird. Sorry, I'm just looking at something on my screen as we talk. Ryan has a comment. I read that Russian commanders aren't reporting deaths and deserters so that they can skim pay from their full roster. Oh, that's interesting. And don't want the true number known so that the Kremlin won't send them less pay. So their true strength isn't known, and that makes them thankfully less effective. But on the flip side, it is leading to more plundering and looting because of supply issues. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, God knows the Russians. I mean, unfortunately, it is a corrupt country and a corrupt system and a corrupt military. And that's part of the reason the Russians have been doing so badly, is because the money that was supposed to go into military modernization didn't go there. It went into people's pockets. And of course, they're not going to tell Putin that. So everybody lied to him and said, oh, yeah, things are going great. That modernization, it's super. We got the mods. Don't worry. The mods are there. If somebody's being I told them, if somebody's being obviously trolly, get rid of them. Some of the orcs are being paid. Yes, they are. Some of them are actually, because they've got contract workers as well. Remember, that was there was an ad last week that we saw where they put up an ad that looked like a computer video game for kids. My coffee cup is just water. It probably should be coffee. I'd be doing better right now. But they put up an ad like that was a video game, and it said 12 plus. And it was for contract workers, not even workers, contract soldiers to join the Russian military, 1 to 2 year contracts. And apparently they pay very well. The orcs is a term that, it's funny because those of us from Tolkien fame, know orcs as being orcs. Orcs is a term that Ukrainians use for Russian troops. And I don't know why, though. I don't know what the derivation is from that, like what it came from. Does anybody know? Does it come from like a word in Ukrainian or something that makes sense? But they call them orcs, which I think is funny when you look at it from a perspective of Tolkien, because the orc thing is very funny. Thank you, Gloria. Well, it is Tolkien, the orcs, but there must be, Ukrainians, there must be another reason they're calling them that, though. But is there a reason? Any of the Ukrainians out there know? I know it's from Tolkien, but is that why the Ukrainians picked it up from Tolkien? That's my question. It's kind of funny if the Ukrainians picked it up from Tolkien. That would make me laugh. That's okay. Thanks, Eric. I don't mind if you've got to go to work. Come by again. I do think we need more sanctions on Russia. I think one of the annoying things with the sanctions on Russia is I get very annoyed by every time I hear there's new sanctions. I'm always like, there's new sanctions? Like, what do you mean there's new sanctions? Why are there more things left to sanction? Like, I don't get it. Xena said it's from Tolkien. Okay, very interesting. Yeah, Xena Solo, I assume you mean, who's a big Ukrainian TikToker and influencer and everything else, said it is from Tolkien. How funny. I mean, of course I know orcs are the big, dumb, strong, evil, bad guys, but they're kind of dumb, but they're really big and from Tolkien. Goes back to demonology. That's interesting. I did not know that. Yeah, Xena is Xena Solo. As I said, a big TikToker, a Ukrainian TikToker influencer. She's been doing a lot of, obviously, updates on what's going on and stuff. Interesting then. Okay, it's from Tolkien. I mean, I know it's from Tolkien, but I didn't know they actually took it from Tolkien. Because Russia's Mordor. Well, actually, I have been seeing, which has been very funny, a lot of the memes the Ukrainians are doing is Russia's Mordor. For example, there's one guy on Twitter who's great, and I forget what he calls it. The something like Ukrainian. He made this up, of course, but he goes, the Ukrainian Ministry of Accidental Fires. And it's all the accidental fires taking place in Russia. And every time it happens again, he puts up another image and puts the title, Mordor is on fire, which is very funny. Again, if you know Tolkien, it's very funny. Kelly's saying something about Servant of the People, which is the Zelensky comedy on Netflix. In Servant of the People, Zelensky's character gave a speech saying that Ukraine wasn't just a no man's land between orcs and elves. Oh, that's funny. I always assume that's what it references. Oh, now that's interesting. That's interesting. God, what a reference. And it would kind of make sense if that's what it came from. But from Latin, an orcus, orco, is a demon or monster. Interesting. I did not know that. I mean, I don't speak Latin, but I speak Italian. Orco. Interesting. Huh. Yeah, I still got to watch it. Actually, a friend of mine yesterday said he's been watching it, Servant of the People, which was Zelensky's comedy he was in, that basically a comedian that, I guess, I don't know if he runs for president as a joke and he wins, but it was kind of funny because Zelensky is a comedian who ran for president and won. So it's kind of a funny, across the board kind of thing. Correct. Yeah, exactly. The orcs are actually, that's an even, Julia gave an even better definition of the orcs. Not intelligent, but throw themselves into battle. And again, I was sort of saying they're just like big, dumb guys. We'd say grape ape here, anybody who grew up in my generation, but like big, dumb, stupid guys who fight. And that's, yeah. But that still cracks me up. Latin is not close to Greek. No, not at all. I would say not at all. I don't think at all. I don't speak Latin, but I've seen it. And I get more from Latin looking at it, like knowing Italian and stuff, than I do Greek that I can think of. And even ancient Greek is really bad. Ancient Greek and modern Greek, Greeks can't really read it without studying it. And I look at it and there's only a few words I can understand, which is still kind of cool that there's like some of the same words from 2,000-3,000 years ago, which is kind of neat. But, I'm seeing my joke questions come up and thinking it's a question somebody posted. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, Sasha's walking around. I can try to show you her in a minute. In a minute, I'm gonna burp. Oh yeah, what was let me see. Yeah, I saw something low yield nukes and I forgot. I saw you mentioning that on the screen. Let me see. I didn't see it in the Q&A. Hang on. Right now it's 3:15 p.m. So it probably was 3 p.m. We are 2 hours ahead of Colorado, whoever was asking in Colorado. All right, hang on. Tactical nukes. I'm not seeing anything on tactical nukes here in the Q&A. No. Not unless there's something way farther down. Sorry, I looked. There's nothing. I found. If you want to try to write it here, I'll try to check it out, Panzer. But I'm not seeing anything tactical nukes in the questions that I looked at. Yeah, I would have. In retrospect, I would have liked to have taken Latin, but at the time, like in school, ooh. We had Latin. People took it. I was more interested in learning my Spanish. Ryan says Zelensky's background was pointed out by Russian trolls early on. They were saying we're all being lied to. This was all a planned production. They believed everything the propagandists tell them. Yeah, well, joke's on them because Zelensky is doing pretty well. They're not. Oh, all right, guys. You know what? It's 1:15 anyway. Let's switch over to our hanging out mode. My breathing's bothering me anyway. Boy, these allergies, I'm telling you. I may take the dog out, but we're not going to go for long if I take her out because its chest is bothering me again today. Damn. But usually what we do at the end here anyway is we hang out for a bit and just hang out and chat for fun. So about whatever you want to talk about. So we may do that. Yep, just checking here. All right. Yeah, I think we're good on that front. Yeah, so let's just hang. I always love people to say you talk too much. What It's a video. It's a show. The recap. Would you rather have I don't talk and I watch the screen quietly, Zen-like? So the recap, Severodonetsk in the east, the Ukrainians, it does look like the Ukrainians have done quite well against the Russians out of the blue in the last few days in the town of Severodonetsk in eastern Ukraine. We don't know, but there are some reports that the Ukrainians now control 50% of the town, maybe even more. We shall see. The Russians, apparently, there were a mixture of troops the Russians were using, none of them doing very well. The Russian military bloggers say the Chechen units were fighting there in the town, and the Chechens thought they won, and the Ukrainians basically tricked them. So the Chechens thought they won and were like sitting back going, yay. And then the Ukrainians counterattacked and destroyed the Chechens. The Russians also were sending Ukrainians from the eastern provinces, basically the collaborators, and they were sending them to fight because they didn't want to send Russians to fight because they knew this was a meat grinder, that they were, they thought they could win this town, but that it was going to be a disaster if they fought there. So they sent everybody who wasn't Russian there, hoping that they would die instead. In any case, the Ukrainians have done very well. The Russians have not done well. Let's see what happens in the long term. Thank you, Webadeb. Let's see what happens in the long term as far as whether Ukraine can hold it. But one final, and since I'm summarizing, one final good thing from this is the Ukrainians have done so well that they forced the Russians to throw everything they've got at this town. And the Russians still aren't winning, which means the Russians are going to have a very hard time going on the offensive anywhere else in Ukraine after this, because they've pretty much spent everything they had. And that's great news. And the Ukrainians still have the ability to make some attacks elsewhere. The Russians do not. New rockets. Oh, yes. Putin is bluffing again about the rockets. Putin threatened Ukraine that they better not get medium-range rockets. Then Ukraine got the medium-range rockets, and Putin said, we don't care that they have medium-range rockets. We only care if they get the long-range rockets. So now Putin has changed his tune. He was bluffing. He's always bluffing. The Russians sent 5 cruise missiles to Kyiv last night. 1 was knocked down. 4 hit a car repair plant that the Russians claim was storing, thank you, that Ohio lady. The Russians claim was storing tanks that NATO had sent over. The Ukrainians say it was actually storing grain trucks, and that's why the Russians attacked, because they were trying to knock out all the grain, of course, because they're trying to cause an international crisis with grain internationally, with people not getting food in Africa, etc. And the Europeans, the Montenegrins, North Macedonians, and Bulgarians have decided to play a little game of hardball with the Russian foreign minister by blocking their airspace to his flight that was supposed to fly over tomorrow to go to Serbia. So it's not clear how he's going to get to Serbia, but kind of funny anyway that they're harassing him. Thank you, Life's Ali Martin. What were you saying here? Oh God, I don't know. I mean, Ryan's saying, why do you think Germany's waffling on sending aid? I mean, your question can be interpreted two ways. Why is it that I believe Germany is waffling? Meaning I don't think Germany's waffling. Why do you think they're waffling? Right? The other possibility is, yeah, they're waffling. What do you think is motivating it? I'm going to stick with question number 2, which is, yeah, the Germans are waffling. Why are they doing it? I mean, Scholz is in some weird, the way Scholz keeps going back and forth makes me think there's some political debate that the rest of us don't understand going on in Germany right now. And you've got very strong interests that are saying, get this over with and let's have better relations with Russia, and other interests that are more hawkish and say, we're going to have another war in the future if we don't fight this now. I don't know whether it's business interests maybe that are affecting the Chancellor Scholz, whether there are powerful business lobbies there like we have here, that are, that are saying, we need the business. War is bad for business. Unless you're a defense contractor, war is bad for business. But that's all I can guess. I mean, I couldn't tell you about why Putin waited this long. I mean, I don't know. And Marion and Sergeant Cabuto, thank you. Sweet folks. All right. Yeah. So, all right, guys, let's just hang. Like I said, well, man, this is bothering me today. Oh, so horrible. I mean, just my asthma. They don't, Dima, the thing is, and I don't know, I'm going to put this up just for folks because Dima is asking for, I know, move to Alaska. I've been to Alaska. I love Alaska. Dima is asking from Ukraine if any of the defense types want to weigh in. It's a good question, and I've Googled it before, but it's kind of it is counterintuitive. Dima says, if we're checking Russian losses in comparison to overall Russian army, they still have a lot of everything, right? Because you hear about the 1 million man Russian army. Why are the analysts saying they don't have forces to attack? Hello from Ukraine. Hello, привет. Some of it is Russia's land, meaning they have such a large territory. I've got to Google this again. Is it 11 time zones? How many? Hold on a second. How many time zones does Russia have? Jesus. Hey, Google, how many time zones does Russia have?
11 time zones.
11. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay, Google, quiet. I wish Google would answer a question and then shut up. It drives me crazy sometimes. 11 time zones, correct. 11 time zones. So they've got a lot of troops spread all over the country. They've got to be spread out. So you need a lot of men to cover a country that large. I mean, they're enormous. That's one big reason right there. They took their most combat-ready men and sent them all to Ukraine. They took their best equipment and sent it to Ukraine. So that's the other problem is their best men have already been attacked at this point. I'll set off your Google too. Sorry. I know Alexa. Well, Alexa doesn't always get it right either though, But I mean, no, so they still have more men they can keep throwing and more equipment, but the best equipment of the best men have already been used, and you still get a lot of conscripts, which are basically people doing their annual military service. It's hard to replace people. So like when pilots get killed, it takes years to replace a pilot, years and millions of dollars to replace a pilot. Right. So yeah, I'd be curious though about some military person giving a more definitive answer. Cause I agree though. You hear about the 1 million men in the Russian, or frankly, 1 million men in the Ukrainian army is the goal. And they're not far off either. And what that really means in terms of whether they can do anything, No, I know, Joanna. I'm probably not going to go out with the dog much today for that reason. Yeah, it's just they're bothering me too much today. What else? Oh, yours keeps going off one eye. Everyone's saying the same thing. Sorry. Everybody's Google responded to me. Sorry. CNN's covering it. It's just I think it's a couple of things. There are too many other stories. I mean, we've got a lot of American stories to cover, and there isn't. I use Flonase every night. It's not enough for this. Not in spring. In spring, my allergies just get bad again. But there's I was going to say there's not a lot. It's not like there's a lot of news every day, because for Americans, getting into the details of the Battle of Severodonetsk for people overall might be a bit too much, there isn't as big of a swing as we had with the news early on, I think, yes, that is exactly why I did turn off the mirroring. So it fixed the map, although every day I have to do it new. So, Flonase is fine. My Flonase helps for my breathing. I can breathe. This I'm fine with. It's just my chest gets, especially when I'm doing a presentation like this, my chest just gets full. And I mean, thank God I don't get actual asthma attacks. That I've never had. But this is still, and I have a good filter and everything else. This is still not great though. Yeah. I'm surprised it's been this bad. Again, I've got my better asthma thingy my doctor prescribed, but I may have to go one level up because I'm not convinced this is strong enough. I'll give it a few more. I may even email him and tell him and see if he thinks we have to go to the strongest level or not for this. I did see, yeah, Biden had to get evacuated from his house because a plane entered restricted airspace in Delaware near him, but it was apparently no big deal. They say. Thank you, Lisa. So hopefully that was no biggie at least, which is good. Anyway, Manda Bear was not first today. She lost her title. Nope. I forgot who was, but it was not Manda Bear. Alas. Oh, interesting. Flonase isn't causing a problem in terms of Flonase is it's not causing a problem in terms of my breathing, Oh, 240,000 likes. That's good. Thanks, guys, on TikTok. Anyway. Oh, yeah. No, I know asthma can kill you. Yeah. No, mine's been fine, thank God. But like I said, I've never had an actual attack, which is good. But other people, I know somebody who died. She didn't take care of her asthma. Yeah. It's crazy. The South. I guess that's true. You guys would have horrific allergies there, wouldn't you? That kind of makes sense. Oh, I do allergy shots. I've got to go this week for my shot. I've been doing allergy shots forever. I have been to Morocco twice, and I've been to Indonesia. Those are the two Muslim countries that I have been to. I don't think I've been to any other Muslim countries, just those two. But I liked them. Yeah. I'm not sure what that's about. Okay, well, you're going. That's okay. And we will block you. All right, guys. This is all getting too quiet here. I've got Advair. Yeah, he finally prescribed Advair. I got off of it years ago, but I got off of Advair. And only it looks like I need it for the spring. So he put me back on, but I'm going to email him and say, do I need a stronger? I know we are getting more trolls. It's interesting on YouTube. They seem to have finally discovered YouTube exists, which is kind of funny, but it's like, oh, well, not that hard to block you guys. And it is, I may take an, although I've got my bread rising here. It might, we'll see when the bread needs to be put in the oven. It needs to rise a little bit longer though. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. So tomorrow's Monday. So we're going back to our regularly scheduled program, 6 p.m. Oh my God, 6 p.m. Eastern time, midnight Paris. All right. 6 p.m. Eastern, midnight Paris. And there we go. It won't let you recharge your coins. Well, that's obnoxious. I appreciate you trying, Fleabaggy. That's nice of you in any case. Try next time. Yep, 6 p.m. So good night, Europeans. Americans, have a lovely afternoon. Everyone else, have a lovely day as well. The profile says 7 p.m. Eastern. There shouldn't be anything in the I haven't updated the profile yet. Thank you, Lee. Thank you. I had not updated the profile. Thank you. I will definitely. Oh, Marion's got a question before I go. All right, Marion, hang on. I am gonna 1 second. I'm updating Marion has to throw me a hard question before I go. You're right. I didn't update. Let me update my profile since folks noticed I had not put the new time in here. Excellent point. Beep, 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 beep. Very observant. There we go. Very observant of you with the profile. Thank you for pointing that out. Marian, could German reluctance be? Oh, German reluctance in terms of what's going on with the war. Sorry, Marian. We got another question real quick from Marian. Marian says, could German reluctance? Thank you, baby Shufit. I do like that little thing. It really does look real. It's bizarre. Marian says, could German reluctance in terms of helping Ukraine be due to continued business connections between Putin, Gazprom, and former Chancellor Schroeder? I was wondering about that. I just don't know what, I don't know how sort of incestuous that all is. Like what lobbying in Germany is like versus America. You know what I mean? You typically think that we've got worse corporate lobbying and stuff like that here, but we do know that Schroeder was bad. So I just wonder, I feel like there's something going on with Schultz that we don't know. You know what I mean? That there's something that's doing this back and forth and back and forth. And he tries to be good Schultz and then he's bad Schultz, and it's back and forth. And which is what's making me wonder, thank you, Crusher, whether it's business, whether it's big business, you know? All right, Marion, I don't mean to hang up on you, but I'm going to call it quits, like I said, because my breathing's been bothering me today. So, and I'm going to email my allergy doc and ask him if we've got to go up to the higher inhaler now, because this is really bad, man. I'll live. Don't worry. I'm alive. I've got my inhalers. Everything's happy, but I'm definitely not walking the dog much of anywhere today. I know, and I'm sitting by the door and all of that. That's not helping either. I know. I've got good filters though, so I've got them running. All right, guys, let me sign off. Marion, thank you for that. Everybody, good to see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Paris time. And I will set that up in a few minutes so it'll be on the screen for you all, okay? All right.